I would like to call this meeting to order, and I'd like to offer a special welcome to the choir from J. Glenn Edwards School, their director, Dr. Hester, and parents and faculty from J. Glenn Edwards. We're delighted to have you here. It makes our meeting to have you here. I'd also like to recognize Will Dorn from the Sanford Herald. Thanks for joining us this evening. And if you'll now join me for a moment of prayerful reflection on today's activities. Thank you. And now if you'll stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. We have no public commenters, so I will proceed with the Lee County mission statement. Our vision, that is the board, Lee County Schools in partnership with the community will provide challenging learning experiences for students in a safe and supportive environment. We are committed to academic excellence, social responsibility, and lifelong learning. Our success will be demonstrated by the achievement of our students and their positive participation in society. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the last agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would, and I'll leave it up to you to decide where you'd like to go, but I would like an opportunity to discuss the Senate's budget proposal for fiscal year 14-15, and also the special legislation that's being considered as it relates to moratorium on lawsuits. If you want to add, or if we can do that during your report or superintendent's report.
Actually, the superintendent and I both plan to speak on that, and when we're finished, it would be a good time for you to add your comments. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of May 13th and May the 19th?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes from May 13, 2014 and May 19, 2014.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We can now proceed with announcements. Dr. Bryan, if you'll present our students.
We are extremely fortunate tonight to have. We're extremely fortunate tonight to have Danny Hester, chorus from J. Glenn Edwards. And ask Christina Womble to come forward to say a few words, and then we will turn it over to our chorus for their performance tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Bryan, and members of the board. We are so fortunate tonight to have Dr. Hester and the chorus with us. Dr. Hester is retiring this year, and he has dedicated his whole career to Lee County Schools. He has had a chorus for 26 years and then worked at J. Glenn Edwards since the doors opened. And so we are just very blessed with all the hard work that he has done for Lee County and with the boys and girls. The things that he does with them is just amazing. And so we're happy to have them come and share with you some of the wonderful things they've been working on. And thank you to everyone and the parents for coming. And the boys and girls will knock your socks off.
Once again, Dr. Hester, thank you for your expertise. Thank you for the children here, and certainly parents and faculty. Thank you for just making this a delightful experience. Oh, and by the way, where's Mrs. Womble? Where'd she go? I just checked. My socks are off. I think we can proceed with the chairman's report, and I do have several things for the board. I was asked by Mrs. Britt to remind everybody that graduation is Thursday and Friday evening at 6:30, and to ask the question, does everybody have caps and gowns?
Yes.
I assume we're in order. On Friday, May 30th, we were invited to join the county commissioners in a budget conversation. Mrs. Brogan, Dr. Bryan, Mr. Conway, Mr. Stevens, Dr. Atkinson, and myself were present. The meeting was pleasant and informative. A number of questions were asked that I thought were appropriate for areas of clarification in our budget request, and I think Dr. Bryan and our staff answered those very, very nicely. Interestingly enough, the Evergreen audit was resurrected by a commissioner, and his suggestion was that we once again consider outsourcing our custodians in a money-saving venture. And Mrs. Brogan and I quickly put that to rest, that we do not feel like that's in the best interest of our students, and do not intend to visit that. The subject of the November bond issue for capital improvements at Central Carolina Community College was also discussed at length. And in response to a direct question from Mr. Womack, I was quoted in the Sanford Herald as saying that this board would honor the capital needs as presented in the bond issue and address our needs for additional elementary schools in the future. What was not in there is what I prefaced that by saying, and actually what I said was, the Board of Education had not had a formal vote or discussion on placing our capital needs on the November bond issue. But it is my perception from talking to board members that we would prefer to address our new building needs at a later date. Another issue has arisen recently, and it's House Bill 292, and that's, Mr. Bernardi raised that issue already. And I'd just like to share with you what this bill is and what it says. The introduction says a bill is entitled to an act to establish a moratorium on filing of actions by certain local school boards of education in Superior Court challenging the sufficiency of local funds appropriated by boards of county commissioners for the public schools. And in Section 1, it says, notwithstanding General Statutes 115C 426, 115C 431, and 115C 432. And I read those because those statutes now allow us to do that, to ask for in additional funds. So apparently this measure completely runs an in round around those statutes. And it says a moratorium is established to prohibit a local board of education from filing an action in Superior Court Division of the General Court of Justice challenging the sufficiency of the funds appropriated by the Board of County Commissioners to the local current expense fund, the capital outlay fund, or both. A local Board of Education shall not file an action, I'm going to read that again. A local Board of Education shall not file an action in a Superior Court division of the General Court of Justice pursuant to General Statute 115C 431 with a subsequent appeal available to General Statute 115C until the moratorium ends as provided in this act. And this act basically says that we cannot file a suit. If we have a disagreement with the county commissioners over funding, we can ask for mediation. And if mediation does not resolve our issues, then we revert to a kind of convoluted plan to solve the issue, which involves, among other things, taking a 3-year average of the 3 previous years for budgets, and that would become our budget at that point. And I would like to add that this act, in Section 4, says this act shall apply in the following counties: Harnett, Lee, Rowan, Stanley, and Union. And I really have a couple of objections to this bill. It certainly sounds unconstitutional to me to pick out 5 counties and tell us that we can't do what the other 95 counties in the state do. I just don't think that serves the needs of the public. And perhaps more importantly, this bill eliminates a procedural safeguard for receiving budget amounts that allow this board to do the job to which we were elected, which is providing for a sound basic education for our students. I think it's a restrictive act, and I hope that we can register our disapproval.
Mr. Chairman, I agree. I think that the fact that it only impacts 5 out of the 100 counties is the definition of arbitrary and capricious. And I even take exception to their basis of the legislation in the beginning, where it says, whereas litigation between local boards of education and boards of county commissioners has resulted in costly legal fees for both parties. Somebody refresh my memory, when's the last time Lee County Board of Education sued the Lee County Board of Commissioners?
Not to my knowledge ever.
So, first off, I question why Lee County is even,
I do.
in this, is in this for consideration, and to me, it's a way to try to take away a tool of last resort for boards of education, and in particularly 5 specific boards of education, and it reeks of politics and partisanship, and I suspect that if our local press or any press did a little bit of digging, that these boards of commissioners are controlled by the Republican Party. I don't know that to be a fact, but I would, if I were a gambling man, I would be willing to put money on it. And it makes me even more glad that I left that party a few months back. Such legislation of such a ridiculous nature as this, on top of the previous special legislations that was passed, that in my mind are just an attack specifically at Lee County and in general on public education. I can't wait for November to get here. It can't get here soon enough. And before we go on, I would like to go back just to the, you made mention of the elementary school. If memory, you're absolutely correct, Mr. Chairman, that we haven't voted on any kind of taking a bond issue, going to a bond issue, but we did approve a request for funding for a new elementary school and sent it to the commissioners, because I think you and I, as a result of that, met with the chair and vice chair, and that was when they requested us to do that facility study,
Right.
which we did, which we presented to them. So they have a formal request for a new elementary school. It's up to them, their board was elected to make those kind of decisions as to the mechanism in which they fund it. If they want to, we funded Southern Lee High School, San Lee Middle School, the improvements at Floyd Knight, the gymnasium, the improvements here at Lee County High School. They funded all of these, none of which went to a bond referendum. So, that's up to them. But, it's my position that we have requested the funds to build elementary school, and that we can't wait. We need it now. And, if they gave us the money to, tomorrow, you're looking at 18 months before, or longer before the facility will be in use. And we're already to the point where, as a part of our budget request, we are requesting money to purchase bathroom facilities, mobile bathroom facilities to put at our elementary schools, because we don't have enough bathroom space at the schools for the number of students that we have. So, I don't want anybody to get the impression that we can just put it off, because that request has been on capital improvement plan for at least 4 or more years, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe just 3, but it's been on there for several years, I'm sure. And I don't know if you were getting ready to comment on the budget proposal, but I just wanted to comment on the elementary school while I had an opportunity.
You're absolutely correct. Fact is, on our most recent CIP budget, there are 2 elementary schools that's listed.
That's right.
So you're
And,
correct.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add, when we were talking with them at our meeting on Friday, that did come up towards the end of the meeting about the new elementary school. Mr. Bernardi's correct in this, that we have been talking or trying to talk with them about this for quite some time, and that dialogue going about getting a new elementary school, and the need is definitely there, as we saw from the study, which I think we kind of knew that before the study came out. But I would like for us to move forward with that without having to do a bond, just working with the commissioners to get a new school going. But, I think I think that the improvements that they want to do to community college are very important as well. And I can understand the need that they have over there. I know that I've talked with Dr. Merchant a couple years ago about that health building that they've been wanting to build, and that was like 4 years ago. So, they definitely have some needs over there that need to be addressed, and that was 4 years ago for that building. The Civic Center needs renovated, and there's a lot of good we can do with that building. And the community college is a huge economic engine in our community, and I can understand, them wanting to have that bond referendum to get their school moving to the next level. And I think that by supporting that and getting that going for the community college, I think that it will do good things for our community. And since we have such a great community college here, it's just going to enhance that. So I'm definitely excited to see those improvements happen. And we definitely do have that need for a new elementary school, and I want to see that happen as soon as possible, as soon as we can. So it's really, a balancing act. But, we are also part of an economic engine here in Lee County as well. So that's a need that needs to be addressed. But we did discuss that with the commissioners, and you were correct in your comment that, you did state that we did not, vote on it as a board. You made that clear that you weren't speaking for the whole board, and that was just your take on from speaking to other members. But I do agree that we do need a new school, but I also can see the needs of the community college right now being on that bond referendum.
Well, I agree, Ms. Brogan, and as a former trustee to community college, I'm a huge supporter and a supporter of their bond referendum. But we were elected to represent, K-12 Lee County schools. So, I think that we can't, I guess for lack of better words, try to willingly take a back seat to say, okay, we'll step back and wait. If you wait, like I said, it's going to, the issue will continue to be exacerbated by continued growth. And we're at the point now where we don't know what to do, don't
Right.
know where to put the students. So, we really, as a board, need to keep pressure on getting the funds to build this elementary school.
And I made that clear at the meeting on Friday, that the need is definitely there. And like you said, we're having to bring portable potty units
Right.
in. The need is definitely there. And you're right. We've been talking about this for quite some time with them. So I do agree that we need to put pressure on, and as soon as we can, we need to get moving on it. So I agree with that 100%. So, the need's definitely there. We need to keep talking to commissioners and keep that pressure going, because it's only going to get worse with growth. And one school, and I remember saying this specifically at the meeting on Friday, that one school will just get us caught up. And that's not accounting for growth down the road.
Right.
So that's something that, when we're talking about building a new school, we need to be thinking about, 4 or 5 years down the road. So I agree. We need to keep that pressure on. And, hopefully things will work out for community college as well, and we can get moving in Lee County and get these things accomplished.
Any additional comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just, sorry, I'm on a roll. Talking about the lawsuit, I just wanted to add, if that's okay with everybody, I just wanted to add with that bill. I agree with everything that Mr. Bernardi said about it. It definitely reeks of politics, and it's ridiculous. And I think that, we were elected to take care of our children and do the best we can for them. And that's what all of us up here work hard every day to do. And we're determined and dedicated to do that. And it just frustrates me, and this kind of goes into this, what we're going to talk about next with the Senate budget, but this just frustrates me and angers me to no end when you're fighting against your own state government to try to provide the best we can for our students. We should be on the same page with them. We should not be getting punished with all these crazy bills and making things harder on trying to educate our children. I mean, that's just ridiculous to me. I want North Carolina to have one of the best education systems in the country. We've got smart, intelligent children in our state. They can do it. We have an obligation to provide them the best we can. And it upsets me with all this kind of infighting that we're seeing, coming from the General Assembly, attacking us, attacking public education in a broad spectrum, not just the boards of education, but the teachers, the principals. They're attacking education on every level. And it's so counterproductive for our state and for the future of our state. And it's ridiculous, and it angers me. It makes no sense. And the ones who are going to pay the price for all of this is going to be the children. And to me, that's just unacceptable. They deserve better than that, and they deserve the best we can give them all throughout the state. And it really just angers me that the children are going to pay the price for all of this nonsense. And like Mr. Bernardi said, I can't wait till November, because I hope there's some big changes, because our children deserve it. We should be thinking of ways to move our state forward, to work together with our state, to improve our education to be the best it can. And I'm sick and tired of fighting against our own state government over this. And I'm looking forward to the day when it can be a brighter future and we can be on the same page, because it's going to benefit everybody. And this lawsuit is just ridiculous. We have that ability for a reason to be able to go to court if we have to. And of course, nobody wants that. It's a last resort. And like Mr. Love said, it's never even happened. So I don't understand why we're even in this bill. I don't understand why any of these are in the bill except for political agenda. That's the only reason for it. And I don't understand why they're pushing that, because it's hardly ever used. I remember looking at studies where it's very rare that it ever even happens. But it's important for us to have a tool in case we get to a point where mediation isn't working, because, as you said, we are responsible by the Constitution of North Carolina to provide that sound basic education. And we need to stand up for the children and say, we need this certain amount of funding to be able to fit that obligation, to be able to fulfill it. And so that will give us, that gives us a recourse that we can have to negotiate with the commissioners. If they take that away, we don't have any way to stand up for the children. And so that's just very frustrating to me. And it's just like, I feel again like we're just being punished for trying to do our job. And it makes it's very upsetting. And I think it's ridiculous it's only 5 counties, but that's a foot in the door. If they pass it with the 5 counties, I'm sure the other counties will start jumping on board too. And it makes no sense to attack that, especially when it's not something that's being used all the time. Nobody wants to do that, but it gives us a negotiation ability tool at the table when we're sitting with the commissioners so we can get through it in a constructive way and work together, because we're supposed to be collaborative, everyone working on the same team, and that helps us to get that accomplished, because the local funding is 20% of our budget. That's a big chunk. So we need to be collaborative, but it's good to have that recourse just in case we need it at the end of the day. Okay.
Any further comments? Well, while we're on the issue of the legislature, I'd like to call on Dr. Bryan to bring us up to date on the specifics of the Senate budget that has been publicized.
Mr. Chairman, sorry that I have to take you back. What are we going to do on the resolution that was passed by the commissioners?
I'll make that obvious in just a second.
Okay.
Let's get this, because I want to do them both together.
Okay.
Dr. Smith, last week, as everybody knows, the Senate passed a version of the budget, and in that budget, Senate addressed teacher salaries from perspective. Basically, across the board, there was an 11%, give or take, increase in salaries for teachers. Certainly, I think everybody recognizes that something needs to be addressed in relation to teacher salaries. In exchange for those teacher salaries increasing, the Senate made it a condition that teachers would have to give up their tenure for that. To balance out the increase in revenue that would be used for the teacher salaries, there were some cuts that have been proposed. The first of which is and I'll put this in Lee County terms, as far as try as best I can with what I think the numbers might be. In Lee County terms, that would be a $1.6 million cut for teacher assistants, which is roughly about 50%. There was also a reduction of about $38,000 that would go towards central office. There was a what adds up to about $207,000 cut to school nurses, which is about 3 positions. They in the budget, it sort of reorganized, restructured how nurses were allocated. And there was also a reduction of 5.5 teaching positions. The Senate passed that last week. It has now been sent to the House. Now, of course, the Senate budget came on the heels of the governor's budget. Governor's budget and Senate budget are, I think most folks have probably recognized, are not aligned with each other, and we will see what the House does.
Thank you, Dr. Bryan. And in response to your question, Mr. Akanosho, which was a perfect question, I think I would like to ask the board for their permission to authorize Dr. Bryan to compose a letter to the Senate expressing our attitudes and opinions on the budget, and to compose a letter to our legislators concerning Senate Bill 292. I think our opinion need to be voiced, and I think that would be a good way to do it. And I think it would take more importance if we actually have a motion to approve the composition of those 2 letters.
May I ask a question? I just want to make sure I'm correct in what you're asking me to do. Your first comment regarding the budget, do you want me to address the letter to the Senate or the House? Because the House is the one taking the budget up.
Well, we don't know what the House budget
Right.
will be yet, so it wouldn't be important
But-
writing a letter for that issue.
Okay.
Well, I think we can still address our concerns of what's been proposed in the Senate. even if
Sure.
As they
I'm sending
take that up.
I'd send it to both the Senate and the House
Right.
and the governor.
But
I'd
the
send it to
subject,
everybody you
obviously,
think of.
the subject has to be the Senate budget because we don't have a House budget yet. But yes, to all the
But they
legislators.
will be the ones acting on that
Right.
in reference to what the Senate has done.
So we'll send a letter to our legislators concerning the Senate budget, and we'll send a letter to our legislators concerning House Bill 292.
Sounds good.
Is there a motion to that effect?
I make a motion that we send a letter to about Bill 292 and the Senate budget to the House, Senate, and our local representatives.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. And we can now proceed with the remainder of the superintendent's report.
Dr. Smith, I'd like to ask Dr. Atkinson to come forward, recognize Clean School of the Month recipient.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to ask you to help me welcome B.T. Bullock. They're the winners of the Clean School of the Month for the last full month of school. I'd like to ask them to come up. Their entire staff. B.T. Bullock scored 99 out of possible 100, and we are very appreciative of all the hard work that they have done throughout the year. All right. And I'd like Ms. Sutton and Ms. Clark to say a kind word.
Well, I'm very proud of our custodial team. They are very hardworking, very dedicated and loyal to our school, and I know they've wanted this for a long time, and I'm very, very proud of them. So I'll take a minute to introduce them to you. This is our head custodian, Dennis McIver, Tamika Judd, and Fletcher Seiler, and they do a tremendous job. They're very, very dedicated to our school and to our students.
I'd also like to update the board, some other legislation that is in process in the House right now. House committee today actually voted to rescind Common Core as the basis for standards. That'll be making its way to the House floor now. And as many of you already know, this movement has been gaining momentum over the last several months, and now will be going to the House floor. The other thing I'd like to recognize tonight, last week we had a recognition of students at Civic Center midweek, and as you all, I think, have sort of constructed and put together the vision for the school district, you have made a commitment to saying that all children will graduate with more than a high school diploma. And last week we were able to recognize over 600 students who have already earned at least one certificate or credential to move forward before they leave our schools. We actually had several students who had more than one certificate, and we see that as a value add for our students, not only graduating with a high school diploma, but with a specific skill that is sort of signified by a certification that will provide them opportunities for employment, more education, and greater success once they leave us. So I think that ties back into your vision as a board for our school district. And as we were talking that night, we believe that this is only the start of things. And with our NAF academies coming on board and the great things that can come out of that with internships and sort of recognitions of those academies, I think we're just scratching the surface of things. So I think you have a lot to be proud of. But it was really a nice night where we had all those students and parents out there who I think were genuinely appreciative of being recognized for their efforts and getting the certificates that they earned, which we're very proud of.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to have a comment on what the superintendent just mentioned, just said about our children having sound basic education. You know, it's easy for somebody to define sound basic education in a very narrow way of being able to read and write. That is not very progressive in the time that we're living in. Sound basic education means that you give them the skills and all that they need to be able to go to the workforce. And what we're providing is that type of education. And I heard I read in the paper in one of the commissioners' meeting, one of them said that sound basic education is said in so many words, to be able to read and write. He didn't say that, but that's what he meant, because he didn't say, he said, all these certificates that you're giving, that's not necessary. So I feel sound basic education means that you give these kids that are under us all that they need to get out there after they finish our school system, to be able to work in Caterpillar and all of the factory and Pfizer and every factory that come here. When my kids were here, I remember them taking tool and die and computer classes and welding and mechanical things in the high school. None of them is doing that. You know, they are in engineering or something like that, but it's good for them to know how to do a plumbing work. So all of that is part of the basic sound education. I don't see why somebody will be opposed to, within what you gave to us, we are providing sound and basic education. And that's why we have to work hard on this. When people say we cannot fight over the money that is allotted us, because if somebody said, we don't want you to give all of those education anymore, we just want them to be able to read and write, then we don't have a recourse to fight for the children.
And if they're so concerned about being able to read and write, why would they propose a budget that's going to take 50% of our teaching assistants out?
Exactly.
Exactly.
And everything you said, I agree, Mark, 100%. I am so proud of what we're doing in our CTE classes and with the academies coming. And it was a great event last week, celebrating those students and all their accomplishments. And we're doing things in Lee County. We are going above and beyond, by offering these to our students. And it's such a wonderful opportunity for them. And I'm so happy that we can give them those opportunities, because it is reading and writing and math is part of it. But to be able to branch out and give them those opportunities is just wonderful, and I'm so excited that we're able to do that. And I'm excited to see it grow, as Dr. Bryan said. I believe we're just at the beginning of it, and we're really going to see it take off and grow, and I'm excited.
Good comments, and as in our vision statement that I read a few minutes ago, our success will be demonstrated by the achievement of our students and their positive participation in society. That's the test.
That's the test.
And that's what we're shooting for. Thank you, Mr. Akanosho. We can now move on to committee reports. You notice there's an empty chair. Dr. Linda Smith is away on church business and is not with us tonight, obviously. So I've asked Mrs. Brogan to give a report on Curriculum Instruction Committee.
Okay, we had 2 meetings in May. The first one was May 14th with the elementary school CNI group, and it was at Tramway. And Dr. Bryan talked about the budget for the upcoming school year, and that everything should be final by the end of June. And he also talked about the governor's budget as well and gave us all an update on that. Principals gave Leader and Me updates at the different elementary schools. Dr. Chappell talked about Common Core, and as Dr. Bryan said, there's been a lot going on with that. Principals gave an update on Achieve 3000. And Dr. Chappell also talked about summer school and gave us all an update in the committee about what's going on with summer school and how everything's falling in place for that. Summer school starts the 17th and will be for 6 weeks, 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday at Ingram and Edwards. And Dr. Warren sent out the Title III grant application for funding review. And that was the elementary one. Then we had a special called High School Curriculum Instruction Committee meeting on May 28th. And that one was pretty quick. There was an instructional update by Dr. Bryan, and he talked about the legislative update and the budget with the high school C&I group. Aaron Fleming talked about the 2014-15 Local Career and Technical Education Plan. And he talked about the changes that were in the plan from before, and we went through the plan, and it's in your consent agenda. And also Dr. Warren, Dr. Bryan talked about the Title III plan, 2014-15 plan, and that's also in our consent agenda tonight. And that was it for that meeting. It was pretty brief.
Is the C&I committee done for the winter? Will you meet in the summer?
No, we're finished.
So you'll meet again in the fall. Facilities and Technology, Mr. Bernardi.
Mr. Chairman, Facilities and Technology met on May the 27th. We had several items for discussion, one of which is before us tonight under the consent agenda, the installation of a boiler at Greenwood Elementary. We also, the committee heard a presentation from Dr. Larry Price, who's with a company called Synergistic, on some potential energy savings. I think, I don't want to speak for Mr. Sharp, but I think we were both interested and intrigued by some of the things well, we were interested in the potential savings, and I think we're going to review the information that he provided us, and let Jerry and Dr. Atkinson take a look at it and further and discuss it again at our next meeting. We also, Dr. Bryan presented the possibility of needing some additional fencing here at Lee County High School, and was going to do some further investigation on that and bring the more information to us on our next meeting. And that we adjourned, and our next meeting is set for June 17th, 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Bernardi. Finance, Mr. Akinosha.
Our last meeting, the meeting for May was canceled because we didn't have too much on our agenda because of the budget process. So now that we have that, our next meeting is going to be June 19th, when we'll be able to consider things, contracts that we have to renew and other things like that.
Thank you, Mr. Akinosha. Policy, Mr. Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our last meeting was on May 20th, where we discussed not any policies, but a few regulations concerning the dress code and school nutrition. And there are several policies on tonight for second reading, approximately 30-some. But our next committee meeting, policy committee meeting, will be June 24th, 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is approved. We can now proceed with unfinished business. These concern policies on a second reading. Mr. Sharp.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Lee County Board of Education approve the second reading of the following policies. 1200, 1320, /3560, 1600, 1740, /4010, 2121, 2130, 2321, 3225, /4312, /7320, 3226, /4205, 3227, /7322, 3400, 3410, 3420, 3460, 4120, 4250, /5075, /7316, 4333, 4345, 4351, 4400, 6225, 6340, 6524, 7100, 7130, 7335, and I think we deleted 7410, 7425, 7540, 7805, 7811, 7820, 7821, 7900, 7920, 7930, 7940, 7950, 9220.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? There's a discussion first. We better do that. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then the policies are approved. We do not have any new business this evening, so I'll ask Mr. Akinosho to make the motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Lee County Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of discussing information that is privileged, confidential, or not a public record under NCGS Section 143-318.11A and 1.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We will adjourn to closed session. We stand reassembled in open session. Is there a motion to approve the teacher contracts?
I move that Lee County Board of Education approve the following teachers' contract for 1 year.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The teacher contracts are approved. Is there a motion to approve the human resources report?
I move the Lee County Board of Education approve the Human Resources Report.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The report is approved. And is there a motion for adjournment?
I move that Lee County Board of Education adjourn the meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck with you. Yeah, I'm glad you got to see it because nobody told me he was getting an award, so I didn't make arrangements. So the mom
You didn't even show up for his award.
Okay, thanks, Laurie.